Hello, I'm Claudia Lee, and I lead Global Partner Marketing at Nutanix. I'm so excited to kick off a new series today that we'll use to provide our partners the insights that you want to be all in with Nutanix. For this first episode, we want to talk about the Nutanix Q4 and fiscal year earnings that we just announced. I'd like to introduce our Nutanix CFO, Duston Williams, to discuss this. Welcome, Duston.
Thank you, Claudia.
While we beat Wall Street expectations on many fronts in Q4, some of our partners are still wondering, is Nutanix growth healthy and at pace with competition?
Yeah, we were pleased with what we had for Q4 earnings. Actually, top line came back nicely, and although if you look at the year-over-year growth, there wasn't a lot of year-over-year growth, but you really have to have that as a backdrop with our subscription transition that we've been going through now really for a year. Well, we pretty much started in Q1 and we'll continue this for another year or so. But with that software subscription transition, we did have some top line compression there, up to roughly 20%, we believe, related specifically to our transition. So if you take that as a factor and look at the results, we were quite pleased with the Q4 performance, and not only from a top line perspective, but we added almost 1,000 new customers, which we were very pleased with. That's been a focus, so very happy with that. And large deals, several large important deals with Global 2000 customers. So Q4 was a good quarter, and we look forward to future growth there as we go forward.
Great. And why is the subscription model impacting our financial results?
Yeah, and it's no different really than most companies that have gone through a software transition. There's always something that impacts our top level growth from a billings perspective. And in our case, it has a couple things, but the terms and with the life of device licenses that we were selling, average we believe around 5 years, and the new subscription terms are around 3.7 years. So right there, by definition, you have less value upfront, some top line compression. But in that case, we get that once the software renews, we'll get that plus more after that fact. So it's a temporary compression to the top line, more in this case related to deal terms. Gotcha.
So in a sense, we're taking less of the bookings up front and we're spreading it over a longer period of time.
Exactly. And then there was another piece with some of our pricing, which we've corrected also. When you go through these transitions, you don't know exactly how things will play out. So we've changed a little bit of pricing methodology on some of our deals, and we think that will help out. But there's always a compression to top line, and ultimately, from a measurement perspective, we'll probably start talking more about annual contract value rather than total contract value, because then you take the term differential out of the equation because you're just looking at an average year. So as we go forward more and more through this transition, we'll probably get a better metric to go measure the top line growth.
Gotcha. So Duston, this is a pretty big transition. Can you tell us a little bit more about why we're doing this? Why are we doing this now?
Yeah, if you look back from a transition perspective, we really started our first transition back in the end of 2017, the beginning of 2018, and this was kind of a thoughtful, methodical extension to our first transition, which was to separate the hardware and software. We had the operating system had become pretty ubiquitous on pretty much any server platform, and at that point it made sense to separate the hardware and software. We're a software company. Having the hardware on our books distorted some things there. So it was natural at that point that we separated the software and the hardware from that perspective, and that's gone on for a couple years, and we're pretty much through that transition. And now we really had to make that transition in order to make this next transition. So we went from a hardware-based appliance business to all software, and now what we're doing is we're taking that all software and converting that into subscription-based software business. And with that, you obviously get much more flexibility and portability of the licenses. From a customer perspective, they've got more choices. From a partner perspective, there's ability to add on to these deals with new products, and with these licenses now that are transferable and portable, that adds a whole new dimension from both a partner and a customer perspective.
Absolutely. And you know what, Dustin, for us who've been at Nutanix for a while, one of the things we love about Nutanix and sometimes hate about Nutanix is that we're never standing still. So could you talk a little bit about why the subscription model is so core to our strategy, our company strategy?
Yeah, no, you're right. We don't stand still, and we're always changing, which makes my job occasionally a little bit more difficult, but it's always best, you know, what we've got, we believe, for the future with some of these efforts that we're going under here now. So, you know, why are this transition now so important? Again, you know, it adds, ultimately, you know, it's good to have a software business, but it's even more enjoyable to have a predictable software business. So this will add predictability to our base going forward as far as subscriptions and when those subscriptions renew and how the business looks over time. It'll be much more predictable. It'll be a different business here. And as I mentioned earlier, what it does, it adds an awful lot of flexibility from a customer and partner perspective relative to choice. You know, it's as simple as a server refresh. We can now offer a term of 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. If you don't want to chew off all the software value at once, there's clearly now very much flexibility from that perspective. Upgrades, new products, anything you want to bundle in, this becomes much more flexible with our subscription business going forward here. So we're excited about the deals that can get structured, the creativity that we can add now with the subscription-based products. So I think it'll be quite exciting for the company and for partners and customers.
What are the key takeaways for our partners now?
We've always been a company that has accepted short-term pain for long-term gain. And ultimately, as we get through this transition, we believe that this adds a lot more customer value and predictability to the business as we move forward. Mm-hmm. And you know, what our partners could help us with specifically is to help educate customers and third-party analysts on some of the complexities of the transition we're going through, and even more importantly, the benefits of this transition as we move forward. So that would be a great help to us, because it is a complex transition and it does distort some of the underlying results. There are a bunch of apples oranges comparisons, and I think the more we can have people educate folks on the true underlying performance of the business with some of these complexities, I think the better off everybody is.
Well said. Thank you, Dustin, so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the special treat as much as I did today to delve into a key part of the business and our transition as a company, and we'll see you soon.